Hey everyone, I'm your host, Robbie Strazynski, and thanks so much for joining us on episode number 48 of CardsChat, the friendliest poker podcast in town. Today's guest originally made his name with a wild style of play, which brought him quick success and one of the greatest nicknames in poker history. In the years since, he's earned over $11 million in live and online tournament earnings, all the while living a nomadic lifestyle. He's grown from those early days in poker to become a family man, an entrepreneur, and a poker legend who still crushes the game on a regular basis. It's my pleasure to welcome the toilet, Faraz Jaka, to the CardsChat podcast.
What's up, Robbie? Finally got to connect, so happy to be here. And it sounds like a really awesome group you guys got here over at CardsChat. And looking forward to diving in.
Cool. It's funny, you just said finally connect, and I do have one recollection, like way back, 4 or 5 years ago, in the Rio parking lot. I think I met you there, and we took like a selfie or something. You were very, very nice and friendly. I think I'll just send you that picture afterwards. It just really jogged my memory. So you're doing well today?
Yeah, I'm doing well. I'm curious what hairstyle I have in that picture.
They may have been those may have been the hat days, like out in the baking sun in the summer. So we'll see.
Yeah.
So where are you coming to us from today?
I'm in Las Vegas right now. This year is an interesting year because I basically, in the last 15 years, really have never lived anywhere with the exception of like the year and a half, break where I did live somewhere a little bit. And this is a weird year where you just get all the benefits of being on tour, just staying in Vegas. And we also have a 6-month-old, almost 7 now. So it just made sense to just like, we're in Vegas for like a 7-month period, which I've never been anywhere for more than like a month and a half in like a long time.
Right.
But yeah, you just, every other week, there's some big live event, or right now there's the WSOP online. So you get like 2 WSOPs this year almost. And yeah. So I'm here and, making a little trip out to the Hard Rock in a couple of weeks, but for the most part, just this here for the rest of the year.
Interesting. Well, I mean, that is kind of the reason I asked you. So where are you coming to us from? Because, in addition to that nickname, the toilet, which we will get into at some point later in the show, you got the nicknames, the poker nomad, the homeless millionaire. I remember on CNN Money, that great clip that they put together, a great little mini feature. With all of that grinding, with all of that nomadic lifestyle, when did you sort of decide, this is what I want to do? I want to basically live out of a suitcase.
It wasn't really a decision. It was more of a calling.
Oh, wow. Okay.
I mean, it just kind of, I started playing poker in college, sophomore year. Hey buddy.
That's
started
Axel,
making
right?
Axel, yeah.
Nice.
Maybe we'll have him do a little guest appearance in a little bit. I just want to say hi to him.
Cool.
So I started playing poker sophomore year, and the next year started making like weekend trips to Vegas. My senior year, I had qualified to like EPT Barcelona, Aruba, so started doing a little bit of traveling. And when I graduated, it was just like, okay, I can go do this tournament, do that tournament, and I was just on the road all the time. It just like, it didn't make sense to have an apartment because I'm just like gone all the time.
Right.
Then after about a year and a half, I got pretty worn out traveling and was like, okay, I need a home base. So I rented a place in Chicago, lived there for a year and a half, was still traveling like half the time, living kind of a more normal life.
Right.
And I got really sick of having a normal life and I missed the road. So I said, you know what, let's get rid of this apartment. I went back on the road, but this time I did a few things differently. I just learned how to optimize for the road better. I kind of understood why I got tired, why I got drained, and I made some changes, right? So what were those changes? First of all, luggage. I was traveling with a carry-on before and a check-in, a big check-in. And, just like, you think you need all these pants, you think you need all these shoes, you think you need all these things. So what I did actually was I started an Excel sheet and wrote down everything I brought on the road with me and put a mark every time I used it. And I realized I'm just using the same few things over and over again. There's so many things that are just like maybe, or I'll use it once. So I really cut down my luggage in 2 carry-ons.
Wow.
Sometimes you got quick layovers and short trips and some luggage gets delayed and now you're in the next country already. And that's a pain and
Sure.
gets exhausting. So like, you know what, no more check-ins, then I don't need to deal with that issue.
Yeah.
I save time going to the airport, save time coming from the airport. And things are just lighter, right? Like I got, you get worn out, like your back starts having issues and stuff,
Yeah.
but if you have less luggage, that's not as bad, right? Especially going in Europe and hopping in and out of trains. So reducing luggage big time helped a lot. The other thing was, not being able to eat healthy, not being able to work out on the road, right? Those things also get very draining. So I optimized for that. I would always book Airbnbs or hotels that are very close to grocery store, and I also have I'd book places with a kitchen and that type of thing. And I'd come up with meals that, like, no matter where I am, I could always make, one of my meals was like tuna with honey mustard and a couple vegetables, and they don't need refrigeration, because another issue is decision fatigue. Every time you're in a new place, you got to figure out, what am I going to eat? Oh, how am I going to work out? Where am I going to work out? Right. And that's draining. That's exhausting. It takes a lot of mental kind of power, right? So to not have to think about those things and to have them automated, you get to save that brain power for the things you care about, exploring, playing poker, whatever. So same thing with my workout routine. What are things that I can do no matter where I am? I don't have to figure it out each time. So I came up with a workout routine I could do on the floor. I have an extension cord that I use for playing in hotel lobbies and stuff that doubles as a jumper rope, that I could also do another thing with to tie my legs together, do it. So I just came up with this system and just kind of solved the little things that were draining me.
That's fantastic. It's like removing like those pressure points. It seems in general like a more optimal way to live life. At some point when you just accumulate and accumulate, you just get weighed down by your stuff in a way.
I'm very hyper aware. I try to really pay attention to kind of like why I'm happy, why I'm upset, why I'm frustrated, and try to just think of those as boulders. And how do you remove that boulder? Do you climb over it? Do you break through it? Do you go around it? And just finding solutions,
Right. Very cool. Well, all of that kind of stuff, when it's just, you're responsible for yourself, easy, great. You make a decision, good. But in recent years, you've married, you've become a family man, and, Carolina has joined you in that lifestyle. What was those conversations like? I mean, was she into it, or did you have to say, well, this is what I do? Like, what's the story?
Yes. Well, so my wife, she's a vagabonder herself. So that came very naturally. Before we met, she had already, lived in, she's Brazilian from Sao Paulo, but she had already lived in Buenos Aires for a couple of years, lived in Bali, lived in London, in Malaysia. And I was doing more like every other week, going to a new country, a new place. She was doing more like a few months to a couple of years.
Wow. Okay.
Doing like online marketing and that kind of, or just finding a local job or something like that. But so she's probably more into traveling, living on the road than I'm kind of like 50-50 at this point. Like I could go either way. Like she's like 70%, like, let's stay on the road. Like, the ongoing joke is like, are we gonna, like, we were like, okay, when we get married, like we'll move somewhere. Okay. We bought a place in Boulder. I was doing a startup there, so we're living there. And then, after we shut that down, it didn't make sense to stay there. So now we're renting it out. And, it was just like, when we get married, we'll live there. And now we're married and we're still on the road. So we're like, okay, when we have a kid, we'll go move there. Now we have Axel and we're still on the road. So now we're just like, okay, let's stop kidding ourselves. Like, we're just taking each year as its own.
Okay, that works.
We're addicted to the road. We love it. We're vagabonders.
Okay, so based on that then, and I totally get it, and it's a lifestyle that is pretty cool because it's certainly unconventional in a way. This is not a typical last year and a half. And like you said, you've been sort of settled for the last 6-7 months in Las Vegas, but travel is not so simple, or hasn't been, rather. Thankfully, things are starting to open up. So what's that sort of been like for you guys, where it's not 100% up to you, so to speak, as far as the freedom?
So we had a night where we went on Google. like what are the places we can go,
Oh.
wrote them on a spreadsheet and like narrowed it down, like where are the places we could play online poker. And it was only like a few options. And one of them was Mexico. And so I did, so we went to Cabo, stayed there for 2 months, did like, I think like, there's all these big series going on last year. Like Party Poker had a huge thing. Poker Stars had the W Cube. GG had the WSP main event going on. So it did it. So it just turned into like less like monthly traveling or less like weekly traveling and more like, where are we going to go for a couple months and doing like 2-3 months here, 2-3 months there, and that's kind of how we spent our year.
Cool. Yeah. Okay. And when Axel came along, how did that throw things into the mix as far as
so we definitely
and all that stuff too?
Yeah, we definitely like we did a period where we stayed at my parents' place in San Jose, California. That's where I'm from originally. That way, because there's doctor checkups like very frequently at first, but then they shift to like every 3 months. So we basically we're like, maybe we'll stay there for 3 months, 6 months, maybe 9 months, but we ended up doing like the absolute minimum, and we're like, we're ready to hit the road. So like as soon as the doctor checks were done with like monthly, and like the next one is going to be like 3 months away, we hit the road. And
that's so cool, so liberating to just have that sort of mindset as well of like the world really is your oyster. There's so many places where you could make it, that sort of a thing.
Yeah, and a lot of people will come back and say, well, oh, you're so lucky, like I can't do that because of this. I mean, I am fortunate, but that said, I really also worked hard to optimize to create a scenario where I can do this, right? A good example is, I started doing a lot of coaching recently, and part of the reason I was so incentivized to do that is because I want to figure out how we could live on the road with my family, and also being on tour with the family is really hard because it's like, being on the poker tour, it's like, I need to be in Florida. That's where the big tournament is. I need to go play this. I need to go to that. That's not as easy when you have family, right? Yeah. So that was a big motivation for me to kind of find something. And I was thinking about like different online business ideas and exploring. I tried doing YouTube videos, which I really loved.
They were really good. I've watched quite a few.
Thank you. Yeah, I really enjoyed making that type of content. I tried doing Twitch streaming, which I also enjoyed, but I'd say that was less for me once I kind of realized how big of a grind that is. It's like, it's an insane amount of hours, and if you stop, you lose your traffic to competitors. Whereas like with the YouTube stuff, it's like you could work really hard for a few weeks, then take some time off. You can't do that with the Twitch stuff. So I was like, all right, like Twitch is cool, but that's a young man's game. Like I'm ready to go enjoy my life a little bit. I paid my dues. I did my hardcore grind, that's a little much for me. Went on to one-on-one coaching, and now, I'm scaling and doing group coaching. So I really just I tried a bunch of different things. I saw, what had traction, what I enjoyed, what I felt passion for. I even was trying non-poker stuff. I dabbled in a bunch of stuff to figure out how can I maintain living on the road, and being able to live wherever you want, working remote. Also kind of, you can double your wealth by like going and living somewhere cheaper, right?
Absolutely.
I mean, it's about trying, it's about experimenting, it's about doing things you're not comfortable with, talking to other people that are doing. I jumped on calls with, Jamie Stapes, who does Twitch. I met up with Brad Owens, who does YouTube, and I picked their brains, try to understand. Go talk to people that are doing these things, so you don't waste 6 months doing it. You can kind of get the cliff notes from them.
Absolutely. Well, that's cool. We'll definitely talk a little bit more about your group coaching and your entrepreneurship soon. But there's a lot of people out there, especially with the whole world in a very unique situation. We all experience this. So that whole nomadic, that there only one life to live. Let's go do things a little bit differently becomes a little bit more appealing than normal. And thankfully, the internet is the kind of thing that makes that possible. To a degree, I would even say that whole, in a way, it's sort of trial and error, that kind of mirrors what we do at the poker table in a way. Try the strategies that work, that make us if not necessarily happy, but the most money, that are most optimal in certain situations. So,
well, and part of that is being okay with feeling uncomfortable. This is something that comes across with a lot of my students. A lot of my students are recreational players, and like serious recreationals that want to study and get better and stuff like that. But I tell them to do something like, turning a small player into a bluff and triple barreling, and they're kind of embarrassed of like looking like an idiot at the table, right? Like in front of all these other recreationals who don't understand this advanced strategy.
Right.
And I got to kind of convince them a little bit that close to like 90% of the people around you are probably not profitable in poker, right? So you can't care what they think, right? You're going to be going against the grain. You're going to be doing things differently, and you just got to be comfortable with feeling uncomfortable and getting out of your comfort zone and making mistakes. When you try new things, you're going to do things suboptimally and you're going to burn some money, but that's an investment in your learning.
Right. And to go back to the analogy as well, not just in poker, but that seems to be proving true in life as well. At least from my personal experiences, getting outside that comfort zone certainly gets you to some good places. That's
and really just doing things is the big thing, right? Like you want to start doing a podcast, right? Like I used to have this problem where I was like, oh, I want to start writing for a website, do some articles. And I want to do things like really good. Like I'm kind of I want to really make sure they're good, high quality. But the problem with that is it takes you too long to get started. And that's something I definitely learned over the years, that it's way more important to go start a shitty podcast, to go write a shitty article and just get it out there, and then you could make it better. But the process of just getting started and getting going is so important. Speed is really important in that momentum.
I think the saying "done is better than perfect." I think there's definitely to that.
If you try to do things perfect, you move too slow. And things don't get down, and things don't get done, and there's no momentum.
For sure. So Mr. Nomad, you've been to so many places. Is there any particular place where you have some great memories or highlights? Not necessarily even poker related, but just places you can't wait to visit again, or maybe even someplace if and when you do decide to settle down, that makes sense. Let's call that place home.
I'm pulling up Google Maps right now. there's a lot. I look at a map.
You literally pin places?
No, I look at a map and I just like memories come like, oh yeah, I forgot about that country. Cool. I would not forgot about the country, but forgot about my experience there. So places I used to frequent often would be Paris, Zurich in Switzerland. Those are two of my favorite places. I ended up meeting like really cool local friends there, just by kind of putting myself out there. They weren't necessarily poker friends. And, when you get looped into the right friend circle in different places, it really, I get a lot of people ask me like, where should I travel? What's the best place? I want to have this cool experiences that you have. And the answer is go where you have someone to show you around. Some of my best experiences were like a small town in Ukraine, a small town in Czech Republic. And I just had a local to go and show me these really cool, awesome experiences that I never would have experienced. There's no tourists there. And, I get to go meet the local DJ in like the small town and go hang out with them and, just do all these cool things. And those are the best, most valuable experiences. So go where you know someone.
Cool. Did you do some couch surfing?
I did kind of like glorified couch surfing. So, couch surfing is you go on the website and you just go meet up with strangers. And I've hung out with couch surfers and I've gone to like couch surfer parties. So totally familiar with the vibe. And I would do hostels. And I would do shared bedroom hostels so I could meet other people and that kind of thing. The glorified couch surfing was more like, I would just like, friends of friends, right? Like I didn't need to do couch surfing because for example, I was in a tournament in Italy and I met a guy there who was from Switzerland. And he was like, yeah, I have these other, I have a bunch of friends there. Like, I think I know someone who'll let you stay, in their guest bedroom even.
Cool.
And, it was easier for me to kind of get those invites because they could, say a little bit about who I am and that kind of thing. I would take advantage of those and I'd go, and usually there's a really cool people that are willing to go host a stranger like that. So I did a lot of that. I did a lot of like staying in guest bedrooms. Sometimes it'd be a couch. Sometimes it'd just be a bare floor and a blanket. Sometimes it'd be a hostel. Or sometimes I'd just go get a room or an Airbnb nearby. But it was just like me, like, for example, the Czech Republic was, I was in Prague for a tournament. my friend from college was like, oh, I know a guy who was studying abroad at our school. He's just going back to his hometown, Czech Republic, this town called Ostrava. It's like 500,000 people. It's a few hours away. He's cool. You're cool. You guys should meet up. I was like, okay. So after the tournament, I jumped on a train, so 3 hours, have no idea who I'm meeting. He has a picture of me. That's it. And, I meet him at the train stop, and he took me to his house. His parents didn't speak any English.
Oh my God.
They were being like super hospitable. And like, we had dinner, and then right when I got there, it was like midnight, and they gave me a beer, and they're like, they tell the kids that the, beer helps with the digestion. So we start them early here. And yeah, I was in this town called Ostrava, which is really cool. His brother was like the newspaper delivery guy for the city. So the next morning I jumped in his truck, and we're like throwing out these newspapers. In
That's amazing. Town. That's a cool way to see the city for sure.
Yeah. Wow. And they had this street called Staroni Street, where there's 100 different places you could drink, dance, or eat. Very like small, thin European style, narrow street. And this is back like 10, 12 years ago. And there's webcams on the street. So you could see if it's popping or not, like before you go out. So, we go online, and be like, oh, it's kind of dead right now. Look, like 2 hours later, like, okay, yeah, like let's go.
Amazing.
I was like, that's so smart. Like,
yeah,
that's awesome. So, and it was just like this hidden gem. And they're like, yeah, like tourists from the rest of Czech Republic come here and some like neighboring countries, but we don't really get anyone else who comes here, right? So like that was a cool experience to go hang out on that street and spend a few nights. And like he was friends with one of the DJs at one of the places, so we got to go hang out with them. And yeah.
Amazing. How about from a poker perspective? Any favorite places that you've been on the circuit?
Yeah, actually, my brain just went somewhere else. So before I go on to that next question, I just want to say, with those previous experiences I was just talking about, a similar trip in Ukraine, this one Czech Republic, sometimes you go and yeah, the experience is not all that amazing, right? And you are gambling a little bit there. But the thing that I found was I would talk to a lot of poker players that are like really GTO and like really calculated. And they're just like really measuring, like, is it worth it to go on that trip or not? And just really calculating. Wow. Whereas what I would do is I would just go. And sometimes it wouldn't work out, sometimes it wouldn't work out, but every once in a while you get this amazing experience, right? And that's part of the gamble, that you just go for it and you're okay with it not being that amazing, but that's where you really find these special moments. So I just want to kind of add that to the viewers or anyone who kind of wants to go out there and travel, to not worry about it working out so much and just putting yourself out there and exploring, because that's really what you're doing, right?
For sure. And to a degree, that does fit the poker analogy. Sometimes you'll try a play, it won't work out, fine, but other times you'll go ahead and become the big stack.
And if you find an exploit that works really well, you can do that over and over and over again.
Right. I love the metaphors. Good stuff. Very cool.
Yeah. Poker. So yeah, I mean, one of the best trips is Aussie Millions, Melbourne, Australia. A lot of people who've been there will tell you that's one of their favorite trips.
Sure.
What's cool is just like the casino is right in the heart of the city. In the US, they like to put a lot of the casinos, in the middle of nowhere, away from the city. They're like, we don't want crime and prostitution to come into the, right? Whereas in Australia, they're like, oh, we're just going to kind of regulate and control those things really well, and we're not worried about it. Yeah. And I think it worked. They do a damn good job of it. So you get this awesome mega complex, like a bunch of locals go there who don't even gamble. They just go to the clubs or the bars at the casino, which is cool. So that's cool atmosphere. Barcelona, EPT Barcelona, where you got the casino is literally steps from the beach. On my dinner break, or sometimes even on a 15-minute break, I'd run out, jump in the ocean, come back, dry up, use a little shower thing, come back and play.
Amazing.
Man, I was in the zone in those games, man. Wow. I still do that when I go down there. I love being able to do that, man. Wow. Just so that's a cool one. Monaco's a really fun tournament. Monaco's an interesting city. It's so beautiful, and I love being there for a couple days, but not for like an extended period.
Right, because they charge by the minute, right?
Yeah. The prices are ridiculous. That there are, I mean, he's like, it's not as welcoming as an atmosphere to kind of outsiders sometimes. The local scene. It's kind of, I like to say it's where a lot of the Bond villains hang out, like. But it's a beautiful city, and obviously there are cool locals there. There's always good people and bad people everywhere.
Sure.
But
Interesting things. I like them.
It's a beautiful place. It's fun to spend a couple of days. Yeah, I mean, these are just places I get really, Prague, Prague is really cool. It's always in December. There's Christmas markets going out during that tournament.
Absolutely.
So those are the places that really come to mind.
Awesome.
For my poker trips. Yeah.
Great picks. Definitely stokes up a little wanderlust, not just for me, but I'm sure all of people watching and listening. You've got your website, farazjaka.com, and I know it's currently down for maintenance, but I remember there was like this extensive section there with like big city guides and tips that you had. So firstly, that's a two-parter here. So firstly, do you have, or can you, share with us some of like those really awesome like travel hacks that maybe you can share and, help people out? And secondly, when can we expect the return of farazjaka.com?
Yeah, so I've actually just turned my current like homepage to my group coaching page, which is livespot.co/Jaka. Yeah, I mean, before when I was, my website was just kind of like more of a landing page for people to like, if someone doesn't know who I am and wants to learn a little bit about me.
Right.
And I was always like, okay, I'll do something with that in the future. So I'm just kind of holding on to that, and still kind of the same case where if I want to have a place where I kind of take everything I'm doing and combine it into one place, that's where I'll do it.
Right.
So right now, kind of where I'm at is I'm full blown doing the group coaching, and then like the YouTube stuff, I'm kind of stopped doing. Like, yeah, you might see like a YouTube video I do like once every couple of months, but to do a really good job at YouTube, you need to be doing videos every single week. And I just kind of realized like I'm not gonna be able to do group coaching, play poker, be a dad, and put out weekly YouTube videos. So, once I have more time to kind of do more things, I'll probably get farazjaka.com going. And that will be kind of a home base for all those different things to live and link to. But for now, kind of my main effort is in the livespot.co/Jaka group coaching. I'm really putting my heart and soul into that. And basically doing weekly sessions with students, teaching them different topics, reviewing their hand histories. It's $99 a month. So it comes out to like $25 a session. And a lot of students have been getting a lot out of it. And I've been hearing amazing feedback. I survey users after every lesson. And it's been pretty awesome to see people progress their game and to be a part of it.
Good stuff. Cool. But we will get into the group coaching as promised. I do want to first, I want to ask you about your career a little bit, your evolution as a player. If you can, maybe just throw out one travel hack.
Oh, travel hack. Yeah.
Yeah.
Let me think.
Besides, you already gave us a good one as far as like the two carry-ons instead of the one check piece. That's a pretty good one.
Well, yeah. So I mean, this isn't much of a hack, but I really think about everything I'm bringing, and I wanted to have like versatile uses. So for example, like the pants that I travel with, I'm definitely cost conscious, but I'm also aware of like where to spend money. And for example, with my pants, I'll buy an expensive pair of pants from Hugo Boss. I always get them from there just because they have like the perfect ones for me.
Right.
And they look really nice, so I can wear them with a dress-up shirt. And if I want to go out and party, I can wear them. If I want to go to a nice dinner, I can wear them. But they're also comfy and stretchy, so I could wear them at the poker table.
Perfect.
I can wear them on the airplane. I could sit and grind in them in a Sunday session. So like rather than bringing like 3 or 4 pants that do different things, buy one pair of more expensive pants that ends up being the same cost and accomplishes everything and takes less space in your luggage.
Brilliant.
So that's a big optimization for me. Same thing with like, I do a lot of V-necks because V-necks I could wear with the sports coat and make it look really nice, or I could kind of just be kind of laid back and wear this, and I could even work out with this, or I could go walk around the city with it, right? So I'm very thoughtful about everything I'm bringing. I try to think of bringing anything in my luggage as real estate. Like, do I really want to use up this real estate on this item? Is it worth it?
Makes sense. Cool. That's good. Those are a couple good ones. We can stick with those. Yeah.
There's definitely, yeah. I'll try to. I'm blanking right now, but
It's totally fun. Well, those are
yeah,
some good ones already. It's tough to, well, it's like anything. When you're bombarded by so much information, you don't want to forget. So it's a little tough. So those are a few good pieces, and I like that.
yeah,
That's very good
yeah.
stuff.
Well, I'm also not in traveling mode right now. This is like
Right.
the least. This is like the least traveling I've done, so I'm probably a little rusty.
Of course, of course. Well, this is a question you've probably been asked many, many times. You have progressed to the life title of daddy, but long before that, you were the toilet. So let's hear straight from you and see if Wikipedia proves true or not, how that nickname was born.
Ah, um, yeah. So basically, I started playing poker in college. I didn't really have anyone to teach me strategy other than the rules of the game.
Mhm.
So I just got drawn to suited cards. I was like, oh, I could hit a flush. Like, these are probably good cards to play. So I'd just play every suited hand. I would get a lot of flushes, and my roommates would get really annoyed and be like, damn it, you freaking toilet, this toilet flushes again. So they started calling me the toilet.
Okay.
And then I went to
So it
make
is
an online
true.
account, a Royal Vegas Poker, and I didn't have any plans to play professionally or seriously. So I didn't really think much of it. I was like, oh, they call me the toilet. I put the toilet. Next thing you know, the toilet's playing like, high stakes cash games, 25, 50.
Yep.
And now I'm playing live, and they're loving the tagline, like the toilet flushes away the competition, or
It's a
the toilet
great
gets
one.
flushed. And it just stuck.
It is true. Okay, so Wikipedia does prove true in this
Yeah.
instance. I like it. How about that playing style? How did you initially develop, and beyond just learning the ropes of the game, but like when you first started out, you did have a particular style. How did that initially form or develop?
Just purely natural instincts.
Mhm.
I basically just yeah, I mean, I started playing these shorthanded games and heads up games on Royal Vegas Poker. It was on the Prima network. And
Wow, going way back,
yeah,
right?
yeah, my style was just like pedal to the metal,
Mhm.
put people in uncomfortable spots, do crazy stuff they don't expect you to do. Like, when you play like Street Fighter, there's like, you do this thing where you're like, you kick, you kick, you kick, you punch.
Right.
You kick, you
Sure,
kick,
sure,
you
sure.
kick, you punch. And then they're like, all right, he's not going to keep doing the same things to do something different, right? We just like keep doing the same thing. And like, you're just like leveling, or like you switch it up on them. You know what I mean? You just like, that was kind of my style of playing like heads up poker. Just like, he's not going to 3-bet me again, light, like, or like, I'll show the bluff. It's like, he's not going to show another bluff, and you do it like 3 times in a row.
Right.
And it was just like, I just love leveling people. I love making people uncomfortable. I'm really good at reading people. I'm really good at kind of predicting how people are going to respond. Sorry, is that? Can you hear the baby in the background?
Yeah, it's very cute. It's good. It's
Is
good.
it? Do you want me to pause for a bit,
No,
or
it's
is it
fine.
fine?
I hear you.
Okay.
Unless you're, you'd like
No,
to.
no. I just want to make sure it's fine for you guys.
All good. This is a family-friendly podcast.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm really good at predicting how people are going to react to certain things.
Mhm.
So I can kind of predict like, okay, when this guy loses a big hand, he's gonna, maybe go into a shell, or he's gonna, get really active and try to make it back. Or, this person, when they're running hot, they're gonna adjust their game like this. Or if I show them a bluff, they're gonna react like that. And that's kind of what I'm good at. So that was part of that style to kind of do that.
And has this evolved over them? Because you clearly are still good at that. Has that evolved in any particular way over the years? Because obviously the competition's gotten tougher.
Yeah. So basically, the thing is, if people are good at GTO, that they know the game theory optimal way to play, then they can kind of not fall victim to those things, because they can just understand that, all right, this guy's 3-betting me a lot. Like, these are the hands I need to shove back with. And if he's widening his 3-bet range, I just widen my 4-bet shove range by adding in these hands, right? Like, you could come up with a really calculated defense against that style. And now that a lot of the information's out there, like, you just can't run people over as much.
Right.
But that said, the game's not perfectly solved, and there's lots of times people are playing against you with a small sample size, where you could be totally unbalanced, and they're not going to know that you're unbalanced. So you can still do that stuff, but not nearly as much. As you can't just purely rely on that. You still got to know the game and study and understand the concepts. Yeah.
Gotcha. Well, your first online result that date way back in 15 years, so 2006. Your live result starts in 2007, and I'm kind of wondering about those early days because what I'm seeing is, where were the micro stakes? You just jump into the deep end, firing $100, $200.
Yeah.
Like, how did you, this? Did you really just do that, or was there micro stakes that we don't know about?
No, it's just. I mean, my first online experience was just like. Well, I signed up for poker because I saw an ad at my college on a billboard, just like a little piece of paper that was like, oh, free roll, win your college tuition for next year from Rural Vegas. So I signed up for this free roll. I ended up missing it. Like I was out the night before, I forgot about it. So I was just like, whatever. And it just deposited like, I don't know, $2,500, something.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And then was like really quickly was like, oh, like, there's these like games with like people sitting with like $10,000, like 50, 100. And I think 25, 50, and I could just buy in for like $500. So like, as soon as I ran up my thing to like $600, I would just jump into it, $500, and then like try to double my money. And, that was like a ton of money for me at that time.
Sure.
So, it was just kind of a little bit of degeneracy. Like
some interesting bankroll management there.
Yeah. Oh, I had zero concept of bankroll management. I was just, I was talented. I was good at tricking people, but my fundamentals were very bad. So because I was kind of good naturally and had this like unique style, I would be able to kind of trick people early on and really own them. But as they can see my fundamental errors, the more they get to play with me, they can probably like, learn how to adjust.
Sure.
The good players, but some people would just get frustrated by my style and it would eat them up,
Right.
So I pretty much, I'm playing live poker in college, playing like, started with $10 cash games, quickly was looking for bigger games, couldn't find a bigger game. So started our own game, 1-2, no limit.
Yep.
Got a 9-bedroom house called the Poker House. We had like a few of us playing pretty seriously professionally there. Andy Seth was in that house. Kevin Schultz, who's a PCA winner, was a frequent, guest there. Ty Ryman was one of my students, Robbie Ravagan, Ben LaFew. And then these people started teaching some other people that you guys even know about, Harrison Gimbel and stuff. So we had this whole community that we started. That was the kind of live poker. And then, online, I just quickly started jumping into 10, 20, no limit, 25, 50. I think at one point, like I built up like a 5 to 10K bankroll and I started playing 25, 50 regularly. And within a week ran up to 170K.
Yeah.
So now I'm like the sophomore in college, 170K bankroll, like, the hero of the dorm, everyone's talking about it. The newspaper did an article about me. But obviously playing as big as I was, without the bankroll management and without fundamentals, I lost it all, like over the course of like a 6-month period, even got myself in 20, 30K debt. That was a really, really tough period. I was super depressed. I had to drop out of school for at least, about a semester. And to really get my mind right. I kept trying to redo the same thing. I was like, I built it up so quick, so I kept trying to do the same thing. And that was what was kind of making that hole go further and further down to like that 30K debt. So it was a tough period, and it probably took me a good 9-10 months to kind of get out of. And it was really hard to go from playing, $10,000 buy-ins to $5 sit and goes. Wow. Right. That was really hard to kind of get yourself to do that.
Yeah.
Finally, I was able to kind of do that and started learning more about bankroll management, started learning about strategy for the first time, like about, M and push shove fold ranges. And so like tournaments, I started like learning like properly, like to some extent, still not like hardcore, but like learning some things about it. So I grinded $5 sit and goes, worked my way up all the way to like, I think I was paying $50 sit and goes, just slowly grind that up over a few months. Started playing satellite to get into the nightly, I think it was a 163 that Party Poker used to have, like a nightly main event kind of every night. And so I satellited into that regularly. I also want a satellite to go to Aruba.
Nice.
So I go to Aruba, I bust out of the main event. I'm grinding Sundays online. Just me and the security guard. I'm grinding like outdoors. It's night. I'm getting bitten by bugs. I'm deep in this party poker event I qualified into, and I ship it. It was like 20, 30K. So that was my first big tournament win.
Amazing. Just
Yeah.
sort of like stop you there though. Like you said, that's a gigantic transition to make from these 10Ks down to the $5 sitting goes. It seems like it was a sort of a gradual process where you kind of like, for lack of a better expression, you dig yourself out of the hole. Was there sort of like an aha moment that you had, or like what is it that I don't know what is it that makes you say, not to say, well, I give up. When it hadn't been working, there's plenty of people just would have walked away there.
That's definitely a good question. So I was so I kept just trying to play 1-2 no limit, and then like I would win like a few binds and jump into 2-4 and just kept trying to run it up. Mm-hmm. And like I was doing that for like a few months, and it was not working out. Mm-hmm. And I think I was just purely hitting like rock bottom. And I was just getting into like a really bad, dangerous place mentally. And I finally went and saw a counselor, which was like best thing to do ever. Like I'm a huge fan of like counseling and therapy and that kind of thing. Right. I think even if you're healthy and you have no mental issues, like it's like a professional friend who like knows how to optimize for that. So I'm a huge proponent for that. But yeah, I was hitting rock bottom, and I realized that I was gonna like probably have to drop out of school, and I was a little bit scared shitless of my parents. Anyone who has like brown or Asian parents know they're like very strict when it comes to like school and that kind of thing. Yeah, I just realized like I was hitting rock bottom. And
so it came from within, you're saying?
Yeah. I think just like I had a few incidences where I just kind of like realized that like I'm heading in a downward spiral, and this is going to end very poorly, and like I gotta kind of make a change. Wow. And one of the things my therapist, there's a couple of really good pieces of advice they gave me. It was a school counselor. So one thing they told me was, because I went in there and explained like all the things that were bothering me. Mm-hmm. And obviously the biggest thing was the poker and being in debt. Yeah, it was also like, I sacrificed my school, right? Because this was the year I was going to like try harder in school, and now that's going to shits. I'm scared, or yes, that's, there's some relationship stuff, some other personal stuff, my health. So they're like, all right, think of your problems as a rug. Like you cannot lift a rug like all at once. Like you need to lift like one corner at a time, and then everything becomes easier. They're like, think about your problems like that. Right now you're overwhelmed because you're thinking about all these things. Just pick one, focus on that, and then move on to the next, and it'll become a lot easier. And it's so simple, but it's so true. You do feel like you're in a hole that it's impossible to get out of. But once you solve that one thing, because not only does that go away, there's less, but it also gives you confidence. And that was a big thing that I could see that, like I accomplished something, like I can actually do things, like I'm a productive individual. Yeah. That can knock shit out. So there's that. Another good piece of advice they gave her, they were like, do things that you used to do when you were younger that make you feel confident. So I used to play basketball pretty hardcore, every day, 4 p.m. when the sun's about to go down, like a few hours before, playing pickup ball. I ran track pretty competitively. I used to, write rap lyrics, and, I felt like I was good at those few things. So, I went and took some of those things back up again. Because when you're on the basketball court owning people, like you feel really confident. Yeah. Like it just, right. And that carries over.
Get your mojo back a little bit.
Yeah. It just, it carries over to other parts of your life. Mm-hmm. And they told me definitely to stop playing poker, which I did not do. Okay. That's a tough one, because obviously, like, I get it, because I'm like, from their perspective, they're going to see this as like, this is just a degenerate gambler, right? Right. And this is where you get to, why don't I give up? But like, I just felt it, that I had it in me. Like I knew I was owning these people, that I was outplaying these people, and that I had something special. And I just believed in myself that, I really had this thing, I guess I don't know how to give that advice to people, and because I met people that are the other way that are really bad and don't realize they're bad, and just think they're unlucky. So I don't know if that was just, you know, dumb blind luck or not, but yeah,
Okay.
I just felt like I had it in me,
I love
and
it.
I didn't want to give up on it.
You said it was a good question. I don't know if it was a good question, but it was certainly a really, really good and insightful answer. I would call it, if we could take like a quote or something like that. It was, you know, some really, really, really good truth and knowledge that you shared with everyone there. Thank you, Faraz. I did promise you we'd get into the business side of Faraz Jaka. Before specifically the group coaching, you know, you got a bachelor's degree in economics and in business. You know, how did you sort of develop and harness those interests over time before you started the coaching? You had a couple other ventures.
Yeah, so well, I really didn't get to experience. Well, so I gained a passion for business in high school. You know, we had a really cool business magnet program where we basically ran a T-shirt screening business, like, you know, even screening T-shirts like this. It's the logo, something in the back, where, you know, we did it all ourselves. We ran the business ourselves. Teacher guided us. So I was, you know, I became the head of marketing there for, you know, the high school, you know, class. And you know, I just developed a passion for business, and I was like, yeah, that's what I want to do. I want to be an entrepreneur. So, you know, I went to college with that in my mind. I joined a business fraternity, Alpha Kappa Psi, which was a really cool experience. I'm a huge proponent of doing business fraternities, or kind of like mixed social frats, but also professional frat. Yeah, I basically would connect with other people who wanted to be entrepreneurs at school and had all these ideas of things I wanted to do and pursue, and was like already starting to dabbling ideas. And then poker came out of nowhere. So poker, you know, was just like, yeah, just like an obvious direction for me. So I never really got to pursue that kind of business interest. So, you know, I was kind of like, while being successful at poker, I started like passively in doing some angel investing in some startups. But the thing is, when you don't have startup experience, you're not going to be a very good investor. The same as like someone who doesn't play poker is not going to be a great investor in poker players.
For sure.
Unless you just happen to be friends with like the right person, and they can tell you like, yeah, I'm putting my money in this, like just put money with me. Like that's maybe the one exception.
Yeah.
So yeah, I really wanted to dabble in startups, and was kind of like taking on some like, you know, some roles like as like a passive investor, but doing some help, and then trying to play poker. And I started realizing I was doing kind of a crappy job at both, because I wasn't really focused on one or the other.
Right.
So yeah, I was just looking for an opportunity to basically, you know, go, you know, full blown into something. And but you can't force those opportunities. Just something has to pop up that makes sense, right? So went back to playing poker full time, and eventually I got approached to start, you know, a poker business actually with people that are completely not in the poker industry, like Silicon Valley startup guys. They want to do a learning, you know, a website, you know, using like much more like modern tech, like modern quizzes, and then create an affiliate business and send the traffic to, you know, websites. So we started working on that for a couple months, you know, quickly pivoted into like staking. Okay, let's stake players and create like a hedge fund out of it. So we started going in there, and then we were like, you know, we'll do this like Tinder thing where we could like do swaps. People can like swap with people, and like that'd be really cool. And then we're like, we'll get all these users, and maybe like a few years down the road, we could even launch a poker site. You know, and then the more we started learning about what we need to do to launch a poker site, we realized that, you know, we can do all these things now. We don't need to wait. So we actually, that's exactly what we did. We went and we actually launched a poker site, which is a big deal. And most people haven't heard about it. Yeah, most people haven't heard about it because we purposely kept out of the English speaking media. We had launched in Brazil. So we made a big splash in Brazil. Everybody in Brazil knew about us, did a ton of PR there. You know, we had, you know, 30,000 accounts registered. Yeah, we built the software completely from scratch. We had a, you know, full like team of like 6 to 8 developers. You know, I wore a bunch of different, I was a co-founder, I wore a bunch of different hats. I did everything from spec writing for the software to, you know, email marketing to Facebook ads.
The whole
You know,
deal. Wow.
really just learning how to think like a co-founder, take on a different roles, you know, manage a small marketing team. I'd never done any of these things before. I was always business minded, but didn't have experience. My co-founders had already, this was like their third startup. So, you know, I learned a lot from them. And yeah, it was an amazing experience. You know, I definitely like 10x'd my knowledge doing that stuff. And we did a lot of things very right. I mean, you know, we got a gaming license. You know, we went through the process to do that. You know, we got to launch, which is very, very hard.
Yeah.
We got a liquidity where we were running games daily for a year and a half straight.
It's really tough.
12, 14 hours a year. Those are all really tough things. So, at the end of the day, the reason why we failed was some early on software decisions, because basically as a startup, you're trying to do things as like hacky and quickly and as cheap as possible. The mistake a lot of companies do is like the old thing where you try to build this perfect product that's going to be extremely expensive and get really slow, and you don't even know if users are going to like it or not. So the thing you want to do is, you know, do an MVP, you know, a minimally viable product, where you're just like getting something that kind of works out there, but you're able to prove that there's traction and people like your product. And then you go raise more money from VCs, and then you clean it all up. So that's kind of what we were doing. And like I said, you know, we did a lot of things right. You know, user acquisition was even great. But some of the software decisions, you know, every week out, we had these decisions of like, you know, do we need this feature? Like, we know it's nice, we know we want it, but can we put it off and do it later? Because this is 3 months of development work. It's going to cost, you know, 15 grand. Do we really need it, or can we skip it? And me early on, I would have made if I was doing this by myself, I would have made the mistake of doing things way too perfect, moving way too slow, running out of money. My co-founder was really big on aggressive, move quick, skip steps. And, but they were a little too far in that direction. And we just skipped like a few too many steps, where now we got to a point where we had some technical debt, where we weren't able to grow unless we fixed some of these things we skipped early on. But we'd already kind of made a direction with our software's architecture. This is getting a little bit in the weeds now. But like there's some things with software development where like once you make a decision to go a certain path, you're kind of stuck down that path. And to make a change, it's very expensive, because you got to re-architect it in a certain environment. And that's kind of some of the problems. Like, a lot of people complain about a lot of the poker softwares that are out there today, and they don't realize that they cannot make some of these changes you want them to make because of decisions they made 10 years ago, or maybe even technology that wasn't available to them 10 years ago that are now available. So you cannot compare them to what new age companies can do. So yeah, we just, it's crazy. You could do so many things right and do a couple things wrong that just basically kill you.
Unbelievable. I gotta say, I had like 3 or 4 additional questions prepared, but you've answered them all. That's a very detailed, very, very insightful look at what it takes on the back end. Because, you know, as players, we say, oh, why can't you just, you know, do this, or why can't you just do that? And
well, I want to elaborate on that, because people, for me, it's very frustrating, because there's very few poker players that have gone through the experience that I have of building a poker site, and majority of people do not understand this. Everybody who's on the inside working at poker sites understand this and just shake our heads that, you know, just like they don't get it.
Right.
And here's what it is. Like, so for example, we had a Curacao license. Like, when you have a license with them, you have to use their servers, and their servers are very old, very outdated. The reason you need to use their servers are because this is how their country generates profit. You cannot go use the best servers out there. You cannot go use AWS, you know, Amazon's, which is the best one, which I think they won't even allow it because it's gambling. And, you know, same with payment processing. And you end up with like all these limited pieces of infrastructure that you're able to use for different reasons. So that you're only left with a couple options. And, and yeah, sometimes it's very limited of what you can do with these things. For example, in Nevada, you know, we looked into getting a gaming license there. And, you know, we heard some horror stories from some of the people in that market that, I don't know if this still is the same now. I assume it's similar, but a lot of these laws were kind of made for live poker and live gaming.
Right.
And it just got tagged onto the online world. So like, if you want to make a change, like certain changes to the software, you have to prove that it didn't affect the fairness in gaming, and you got to show up the next day to do that because it sets off a code red in their system.
Right.
That's very expensive to do. As a tech company, you want to make software updates regularly, fast, aggressively, do experiments. And if you got to go do that every time, you're just going to be like, no, it's too expensive. We can't do that, right?
Wow.
So that's why they don't update their software and make changes, and it's expensive. And when you do make those changes, there's a risk of regression, meaning something else in your code might break and the software crashes. So like, ACR, for example, crashes a lot. The reason is because they do a lot of updates. So you, as a poker site, you get in this world of like, either we don't update our software and we don't advance with modern times, or we update our software aggressively and we crash a lot, but we get a better software.
Right.
So
fascinating. Absolutely fascinating. Well, we do have an extensive list of questions from our forum members, but I want to go through a little bit the coaching stuff. Before you talk about the group coaching, you didn't used to talk about coaching or do any sort of coaching at all. It was pretty rare for you to discuss strategy.
Yeah, I used to be very private about kind of my strategy and that kind of thing. Yeah.
Right. So what changed? It was like, oh, it's time to share with the masses. What happened there?
Yeah. So like I said, as I was kind of getting ready to, have kids, I was like, all right, how am I going to create a lifestyle where I don't need to be on tour?
Okay.
How am I going to create a lifestyle where I don't have crazy MTT swings, or I can have a rough idea of how much money I'm going to make each year so I can understand what type of lifestyle I could afford.
Right.
And, when you're having a family, you start to kind of model things out and you're like, you need a little bit of predictability.
Yes.
So I wanted to do some sort of online business, and COVID started, and so I was looking into other non-poker related business, talking to different people, was ready to dabble in some experiments. While I was doing that, COVID started. So I was like, all right, let me do some like online coaching just to start getting some kind of revenue going. So I started doing one-on-one coaching. The response for that was really good. Probably better than I expected. My calendar filled up very quickly. I was able to kind of create like optimizations to kind of do things quicker and optimize kind of the back end of payment, that kind of thing, using a lot of the tricks and things I learned from my poker site experience, right? Because like I said, we gained 30,000 users. I was pretty much responsible for probably 25,000 of those users. And I did a lot of creative little hacks or, little campaigns to get those users. So I just kind of used some of those strategies, even sales things, to get my one-on-one clients. And create a good feedback loop to making sure I'm offering them really high value and that they're happy, and then I'm measuring that score. My calendar filled up, and now I'm just like, all right, how can I scale this? Because you cannot scale one-on-one coaching. Like there's only so much you, right? So
of course.
And I was getting a lot of inquiries from people that were looking for cheaper options. So it just made sense to start trying to do group coaching. And that's basically what I'm trying to do now. My goal is just coach as many students as I can as possible, and making sure they're progressing and making sure they're learning. And as I get too many students, that becomes challenging, and I need to come up with creative solutions of how to solve that to make sure they're still learning. And then I also need to make sure I'm measuring that, surveying them, talking to them, and have some sort of score to realize that they're not just paying for no reason, that they're actually getting, they're paying $100 a month. I want to make sure by the end of the year, they're getting, more than $1,200 in value easily out of that. So that's just how I think about it and how I measure it, and, just really use the things I learned to kind of, attack that. Yeah.
Makes sense. Well, on a one-on-one level, you did have, or you have had, I don't know if you still do, one quite notable student, a certain Mr. Chris Moneymaker. He was our guest here on the CardsChat podcast, episode 15. Go ahead and check that out after this episode, guys, if you haven't already. What's it like working with the 2003 main event champ?
Yeah, no, that was awesome to work with him. He's very quick and very intuitive. I haven't worked with him much as recent. He's super busy now. He's taking a role on with ACR. So he's doing a lot of Twitch streaming nonstop. And like I said, that lifestyle is very, very busy. He's got his hands full. He's doing an awesome job. He's such a good ambassador. He's super likable. He's super good for the game. So super happy to see him out there kind of promoting and doing his thing again. Cool. And I have some other notable well-known students as well that kind of more private about it.
Okay.
So I can't say who they are, but
No problem.
but yeah, I mean, the majority of my students are probably like a lot of like recreationals that are maybe like have a business or a full-time job, but they're kind of retiring or don't need to work as much, and they're really competitive. And, they're like, well, like, I just need to make like 60, 80K a year. I don't need to be the best, but this is kind of a hobby, but yeah, I want to make money and I'm competitive. So that's a lot of my students. And then I have a lot of mid-stake pros that are playing like, 20, 30, $50 buy-ins, and they want to move up to those 215s online, those 5K, 10K buy-ins. So kind of a mix of both of those, like mid-stakes pro students and kind of, or also a third group is people that have been around for 10 years, playing professionally, but they've never really studied. They don't really know GTO well. They don't do pile solver. And they're like, all right, I'm starting to realize I need to do those things, but I've never done those things because I'm really good at taking these like complicated things, a lot of like savant players explain that are really hard to explain, and like simplify them and explain them. I've gotten coaching myself from like really smart players that they're great players, but they're so hard to follow just because their brain thinks in their own way that's hard to relate to. And I really try to just like simplify those things like really easy, digestible ways. Yeah.
Interesting. Got an interesting one for you. You're talking about the coaching, and obviously, you've explained you do it as a way to sort of have a little bit more predictable, stable income, that sort of a thing. Your social media full of retweets from your students and who've achieved success. It must feel good, all of a sudden you're going ahead.
I genuinely love like watching people like hit their dreams in poker. Like it's super fun. Like working with someone who, you try to ask them to explain their thinking and they have no idea what they're talking about.
Right.
Work with them, you see the progress, you go through that journey with them, and eventually they get that score. And like, that's so fun. That's so rewarding. It's super awesome. I started to realize like, that's what the majority of poker players are. Like they're, these recreationals that are like filling a competitive outlet, or people that are kind of retiring and now kind of doing this as like a side thing. Like that's really the majority of the players. So it's also cool to kind of help kind of progress that, because the way I see it is you have all the pros having access to all these tools and getting better and better and better, and like widening the skill gap. So someone's got to help out, these other guys, to keep them, on pace with the pros that have access to all those tools. So I really even see it as a service to the poker industry, right? Because for the poker industry to remain sustainable, we need that skill gap to stay kind of fluid, right? You cannot have that gap grow.
Right.
So I also see it as kind of fulfilling that, which feels really good. So yeah, I always say, like, if you don't genuinely enjoy what you're doing, like you're not going to do a good job at it. Right. I've talked to some people who coach and they don't enjoy it, but they're just doing it for the money. It's like, I get it, right? Like if you need to make money, you got to make money, but you should find something you really love, because you'll make more at that. Like that's just how it works.
Yep. I love it. What a great answer. Before we turn to our community, who submitted a bunch of great questions, we have one more question for you. It's something we love to ask all of our interviewees here. I've been speaking with you here for a while. You're a really nice, friendly guy. People enjoy hearing from you, speaking with you. Who is the friendliest poker player you've ever had the pleasure of playing with at the Felt?
Friendliest poker player? I don't know. That's such a played with so many different people, and there's a lot of friendly people, so it's hard to just single out. In terms of someone like, let's see, who's super friendly. Like what do you mean? Like just someone who's like talkative and player, like I personally bonded with, or like. Yeah,
or that you just like, you finish the session like, oh man, that was just a lot of fun because so-and-so was there.
Honestly, I have that experience with like a lot of random people, like not anyone well-known, and not even someone that I necessarily remember their name, or like, I connect with people at the poker table like regularly, and I bond with them, and sometimes we exchange numbers, or sometimes we don't, but we'll run into each other in the future and become friends.
That's cool.
So yeah, I can't think of like probably the people that come to mind when you say that, they're not like any names that you would have heard of, it's just like kind of random people.
I love that. This is episode number 48. We've never gotten that answer before. That says a lot about you. That's really, really wonderful. I like that a lot. Great answer.
Yeah.
Very cool. This segment of the show, we turn to you guys, our Cards Chat community, to see what questions you wanted to ask our guests. We have a dedicated thread on the Cards Chat forums for this. So as we announce who our future guests will be, please be sure to send in your questions. And we have 3 of our regulars here who've sent in a few questions for you, Faraz. We'll start with a little bit more of the abstract ones from our good friend Acid Burn FX. Which one of your responsibilities do you wish you could get rid of?
Which one of my responsibilities? Oh man.
They get more poker focused as we go along.
Which one of my responsibilities, just like in life, like in general?
That is correct. Mm-hmm.
Well, I'm outsourcing a lot of things right now, or looking to outsource. So, I recently hired a personal assistant that's just taking care of some, little like everyday kind of errands. So I'm already kind of doing that, like, little things like going and calling the insurance company, or setting up a doctor's appointment, or calling an airline, and those type of things.
I know them too well. Yeah.
And they even help emailing some of my students, going back and forth when they need to send me poker
nice.
tracker hand history, making sure they're doing that.
Excellent.
I'm looking for people to help with some of the email marketing stuff I'm doing to kind of reach out to students. I'm doing that myself right now. I'm looking to outsource some of that. Some solver work. I've started outsourcing some of it. I'm still looking for more help with that. Some of it is just from volunteers, where, running a lot of solves, doing a lot of reports takes a lot of time. So, having, basically every session I play, I have a session, I have a bunch of hands that I have questions on, and I go and run them by myself. So I'm looking for help with just like being able to like send that to someone, and they go and solve them and send me screenshots. And I've had a little bit help with that, but still looking for even more help, so it can kind of like have a team kind of doing it. And in return, obviously they'd learn from it, and I talk strategy with them and stuff like that. So, if anyone's good with solvers or even 3-way stuff and is interested in doing that, feel free to reach out to me.
I like that.
Yeah, just that kind of stuff. So yeah, I'm always just looking for ways to outsource stuff to kind of buy myself time, or so I could focus more on playing and studying or creating content. Yeah.
Awesome.
The stuff that I can outsource, the stuff that other people can't do.
Of course. That's a really good approach. I like that. Next question from Acid Burn FX. Whom do you secretly envy, and why?
Secretly envy. I secretly envy. I mean, I don't really think like that, to be honest. Like, I don't want to be anyone other than myself. Yes, I guess, yeah, I can't think of like, oh, I wish I was that person, right? Like, I love who I am, and any things that didn't go well in life, like, make me who I am today. So I don't regret any of those moments either. So yeah, just really trying to be the best version of myself. And, I see people out there that, have, really high quality life in different aspects of their life, and they're able to do certain things. And yeah, there's probably little aspects of many different people's life that I'm like, oh yeah, I want to kind of reach to have that lifestyle. But yeah, no one in particular. I don't think like that. Yeah.
We accept that answer. That's for sure. Final question from Acid Burn FX. How would you spend your ideal day?
I spend my ideal day. Well, it really depends, like work day or non-work day. So,
if you had to plan it, let's put it this way. If you had to plan a day for yourself that you get to do the things that you really want to do, what would that day look like?
Yeah. So I guess an ideal day is I have successfully, outsourced a lot of my tasks, where, I have my team taking care of, the email, setting up my group coaching events, that type of thing. I can go spend the day, with the family, teaching my kids things, going on a hike, getting some exercise, doing that kind of thing. Yeah, just having time to exercise, being able to go out for a nice dinner with my family, and, when I want, spend a week to go, take a vacation, go everywhere, and the wheels don't stop. I have a team kind of taking care of things. Yeah, that type of thing.
I like it.
Yeah.
Cool. Sounds fun to me. Shells, thank you very much for submitting these questions for Faraz. Out of the multitude of caches and final tables you have made in the WPT and the WSOP, is there any single tournament that stands out above the rest?
For any of my big caches, you're saying?
Shells is saying.
So sorry.
Shells is saying. I'm just reading them.
Yeah. Fair enough. Which one would that be? I'm looking at my Hendon mob right now.
How often do you do that?
Probably the year I won WPT Player of the Year. So, okay, this is actually not a cache. Okay, so probably the most memorable one would be 2009, 2010 year.
Yeah.
I'm in the race for Player of the Year. I had I found table Bellagio 15K, got second place for 775K. I found table the very next one, got third place, 531K. I had a big WSOP score that year too. That didn't count for Player of the Year points though for WPT. So I'm like in the lead, like barely for WPT Player of the Year. There's one event left, 25K championship event at the Bellagio, and I'm chip leader going down into like the final 30 or something. I have this crazy hand versus like second in chips, Heather Sue Mercer, where I like 5 better all in with like 9-3 offsuit. She has aces. I bad beat her. I have a massive stack.
Wow.
I basically end up blowing my stack, not blowing it, but like, well, I lost one big pot where I had a set of aces versus David Williams straight, and I actually misread the board and I didn't realize there's a 1-card straight there. I was actually tanking with a set of aces because King Queen got there. So I was about to make like a sick epic hero fold against like a 2-card straight. And I couldn't get myself to do it. So I called and I didn't realize there was a 1-card straight on there. I don't know what happened. I don't know what happened. Just straight brain fart. And I ended up busting out of that tournament like 12th or 13th. And that was so frustrating because the Player of the Year was in my own hands. Like if I make that final table, I win Player of the Year. And now there's like 2 or 3 people that can pass me. I think one of them might have been Sean Buchanan. So I am just like, this is like the most I've ever been like emotional, like after like a tournament. Like I'm in lying in the payout and I feel like crap. And I'm just type of person where like when I make a mistake, like I want to go correct myself and go do it better and go do a better job. And the tournament in Monaco was coming up and at Monte Carlo, and I wasn't planning on going, but I just needed redemption. So I'm like in the payout line, like looking up flights and literally like book a flight to go fly like the next day to go play the main event over there. I think that was like a 10K Euro buy-in or something, just needing redemption. I'm on the flight the next day. It's the final table and there's one player left who could pass me. I think it was Sean Buchanan. And I'm sweating the updates. And it's like, I think he needs to bust like 3rd or earlier for me to like win Player of the Year. And I think like 4 or 5 handed or something like that. And, I take off on the flight. This is like a long, like 8-hour flight.
Oh,
God. And then I land and I think I have like 8 or 9 text messages, and the first one's from my dad, and she's like, "Congrats, Player of the Year!"
Oh, so, that's like, so cool.
That was a really cool, memorable.
What a great story! I love it.
Yeah, memorable min cash I had in the 25K.
Second question from Shells: how would your friends describe you, Faraz?
How would my friends describe me? I'd say people would say I'm a very good communicator. I'm the friend that will go say the thing that your other friends are too scared to say to you. And the way I view that is I'm willing to risk our relationship in telling you what I think you need to hear for your own betterment. And maybe you'll get pissed off at me for that, but eventually you'll probably realize you need to hear that and you'll thank me later. or maybe you don't see that, but hopefully you're able to appreciate that I'm just telling you what I feel and I'm being honest and I'm doing it for your own good.
That's a beautiful thing. Wow.
And I have a lot of my friends who thank me for that. And yeah, that's a big thing for me. I wish more friends would do that to me. And I meet a lot of people where I'm sitting there with someone and their best friend, and their friend clearly has some issue, like whether it's they're dating some gold digger or they have some alcohol problem, or like whatever it is, and their best friend, and I'm just like, like, you see that going on, right? And they're like, yeah, it's none of my business. And I hate when I see that, because I know it's uncomfortable, but like, that's your friend, man. Like, you gotta, that's what being a friend is to me. So,
I think you have like 300,000 people in the CardsChat community who want to be your friend now. I think that's an incredible answer. Definitely.
Yeah. And I encourage people, whoever's listening to this, go do that for your friend. And that's another, being uncomfortable and putting yourself in uncomfortable spots. It is uncomfortable when you say that to your friend, but like it really straightens your bond with them over the course of your friendship. Beautiful. It really does. Yeah.
I'd say 300,001. You're looking at another one right here. Very cool. Crystals was our last forum member who submitted questions for you, Faraz. Thank you again for your time. This one's a little tough, and I guess Crystals is not afraid to ask some tough questions here. Yeah. You have some six-figure cashes to your credit, but none of your top 10 cashes have been wins.
Yeah.
What do you think is part of the reason why you haven't won a big tournament since your 2014 win in South Africa?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just variance. I mean, when you look at these sample sizes, they're so small. When you look at online tournaments, it's like, all right, you have a few thousand worth of tournaments. That's a large enough sample size where you can actually deduct some reasoning out of that. But, live poker, you literally, if you play a full blown schedule, you only get to play 100 a year. So over the course of like 5 years, and I'm not playing 100 every single year, over the course of 5 years, that might only be like 300-400 tournaments. That's just a really small sample size to really try to, say anything about the results. I mean, they should show some color, but yeah. In terms of the final tables, I think maybe like the only final table I could really think about was like my PCA final table, where I got third. So three-handed, I got really unlucky in one spot where like, I think I opened jacks and small blind, did like a big, like 50 big blind rejam with a small pair. I called and they hit a set. Right. That really hurt me. But then after that, I think I made like a big ICM blunder where like, let's see, like 5-bet jam, like king jack off, like short-handed, like three-handed. Where back then I just didn't really have the ICM knowledge, and like that's not the hand I would have used to do that with if I was going to go for it. So like that's maybe one spot where maybe I can say if I didn't make that ICM blunder, I could have had a better chance to win that tournament. I think the other ones were just relatively unlucky. I think, I was happy with how I played, and that's just how the cards fell. Yeah.
Right. That's a fair assessment, because then of course we all know we're not supposed to be results oriented necessarily. And obviously you're highly analytical of your own play, and it's very, very,
and that's not to say I don't make mistakes. I mean, I make mistakes every single session. Like we all do, like,
right. But you review them and you learn from them clearly, so that's very important. Our final question of the show for you, Faraz, you talked a lot about your coaching and what you do for your students, what you offer your students. What is one expectation that you have of the people you coach? And thanks again, Crystals, for this great question.
Yeah, what's one expectation? Okay, so what's great for me is when people are kind of organized and just take on responsibility. So for example, like I try to tell people to organize things into a Quip doc, which is similar to like Google Docs, to kind of like write their hands down there, to be reviewing, to be tagging their hands and to review them regularly. And to communicate with me like what's working, what's not working, and that type of thing. To really think through, sometimes people show up for like a free, 20-minute call with me or something like that, and like they don't come prepared with questions. And for me, I'm like, man, if I was meeting someone that I really wanted to pick their brain and get advice from, I would have, the exact questions I want to pick their brain on and be organized, be prepared, write them down. I would take notes. So yeah,
that's what we
doing
did
those
here.
things, you know, like
So I'm just kidding.
no,
So that's what we
like
did
yeah,
here for the show.
yeah, like I guess the expectation I have of them is to be organized and be prepared. So you know, when you're coming to talk with me, like take notes. You know, if you can't take notes right away, record the session and take notes after. Come prepared with questions. And yeah, document kind of like what's working, what's not, and then bring those back to me so that I can kind of help you with them. Because yeah, my style is really working with students, and that means you need to adapt with different students, and different people need different things. And last thing, I guess, is just being open with me. So obviously, like it feels like, oh, you're paying for coaching, it needs to be strategy. But a lot of students I've helped has actually just been with mindset. Just showing them like breathing exercises and showing them ways to detail, to like hearing about where they start to not play their game and try to understand why that's happening, and then giving them advice of like, oh, I used to have that problem, here's how I solved it. Those are also really important as well. Or organizing your day outside off the felt and making sure you have that in check, right? So just being open and communicating with me on top of being organized and being prepared.
Excellent answer. Well, thank you so much to everyone who sent in questions for Faraz Jaka. And again, a friendly reminder to all of you out there in the CardsChat community, we'd love to see you submit your questions for our future podcast guests in the dedicated thread in the forums. Please be sure to give us a good review on iTunes and spread the word via your social media channels if you liked the show. Faraz, before we let you go, anything else you'd like to plug or anything else you'd like to share with our listeners?
Yeah, I just want to kind of let people know where like different channels they can reach out to me on. If you're on Twitter or Instagram, I'm just at Faraz Jaka there, my name. Super easy to reach. My DMs are open there. If you're looking for a one-on-one coaching, you could email me at coaching@farazjaka.com. Or if you just have questions about the group coaching and want to understand more how it works and if it's a right fit for you, I'm always super open and honest. If it's not a great fit for you, I'll tell you. You know, if you're not at the right level for it or something like that. And yeah, if you want to check out the group coaching, go to livespot.co/Jaka. I have, if you go to previous content, you can see my old content, upcoming content, the upcoming stuff. And occasionally I'll email some free content out if you sign up for the free option as well. So yeah, $99 a month. And I'm right now, my time is dedicated to helping people. So, you know, jump on it. And yeah, looking forward to meet as many people as possible.
Well, I appreciate it. And, you know, the time that you dedicated here has really been wonderful. I've certainly enjoyed myself, and I'm sure everyone's enjoyed listening and watching. For us, thank you very, very much. Yeah. Thank you all for tuning in to another episode of CardsChat. I'm Robbie Strazynski. You can follow me on Twitter at CardPlayerLife. I wish you all a wonderful day.